Good Friday night, everybody. With Susie Draney, I'm Ron Futrell. We got Johnny running the booth. We got Brian Shapiro at a basketball game. He reported earlier on the Marvin Menzies firing today by UNLV with 2 years. 2 years left on his contract? Let's see, 2 years left on his contract.
I feel bad for all the family that, like, with these coaches. Where
Marvin's a nice guy. Yeah, and their families and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's a hard lifestyle. I mean, they really do commit to the programs, and I think they really do try it. And I think, like, that's sad. But I do think, we did need something different, like Kevin Kruger.
Kevin Kruger. KK. Are you listening out there?
Can we get that going? Come on, call in.
But the athletic director today, Desiree Reed-Francois, held a news conference, says, yes, had to make something happen, which, yes, he was 17 and 14 this year.
How come all of them
hyphenate,
have all these extra
I don't know.
names? Like, come on, just take your husband's name and just be done with it.
Wow, I'm glad you said that. I could not get away with that. I could not get away with saying that, but you can. Wow. Just take your husband. So that's going on. Let's see. Golden Knights today. Let's see. The game's almost over. We'll let you know. It's 2-1 right now. The Knights over the Stars. So I assume there's an empty net situation going on right now. The Stars probably have that. But that's happening right now. Golden Knights back in action. They got a lot of games. They've got about a dozen games left in the regular season. But over the next couple of weeks, they play a lot of games.
Okay, with the college things, we've admitted that college is a scam, just to get more money. The government, whatever. But what do you think should actually happen to the people that are involved in that? Do you think that they should have jail time? Do you think the kids? I do.
You think jail time?
Yeah, I would like the little, YouTube star to actually have to go to jail for a couple of weeks.
The little girl?
She's 20.
Oh, she's 20.
Yeah, I'd like her to see it. I'd like her to
12.
know,
she acts 12, but she's 20.
How much fun is it in jail?
Yeah. You want to tweet from here?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have a phone.
Oh, no.
And if you do have a phone, you're getting 6 more years.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that, because then these kids would be like, hey, don't do that because that girl went to jail, Mom.
Yes. Watch out. Okay.
Let's be tough on crime.
Okay, you might convince me. I want them to pay a bunch of money. I want them to pay. I'm more concerned about the light being shown on the admissions process for all the schools across the country that get federal dollars. We should open up this process so we can all see it, know what's going on.
I mean,
why
our government
people are
is good at investigations.
Yeah, they take a long time.
If there's one thing we are good at.
I don't know what Robert Mueller's doing right now, but
he's being investigated.
He could look into this if he's doing anything. Oh, got to mention this. St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick's Day. Yes. What are you watching? What are you going to do for St. Patrick's Day?
It's a fun event, fun time. Love it here. We all become Irish.
We do.
You're supposed to be.
Yeah. You get the T-shirt.
So I don't know. What are your plans?
I think I was going to hit up Top Golf. But if it's going to be a nice day, it seems like a fun place, right? Mm-hmm. They'll probably have some green beer. If not, right?
Yeah. Jeez.
Isn't Ireland good at golf or something?
Well, no, they have. Yeah. Listen, I lived in Ireland.
Yes.
So I got some Irish stories if you want to hear them. First,
what did you go to Ireland for?
I was on an LDS mission there for 2 years in Ireland. Okay, I was during the Troubles.
Recruiting numbers?
No, very low. You cannot. No, in the South, very low. Okay, because you can't
they're all Catholics.
They're Catholics.
Right?
I'm Catholic, and I'm not going to change. You're not going to change me. I'm Catholic. In the North, a different story. It was more Protestant, so it was more open to hearing differences. But I was there during the Troubles, so that was one thing that was fun. It was a war going on.
Oh, okay.
It was okay for me. Now, when I say fun, I'm putting that in air quotes because it was a war and people were dying. So I'm not saying it was tragic. But for a kid from Southern California, this was like, are you kidding me? I'm in a war zone.
And you would go knock on people's door and get rejected.
Oh, yes, quite often.
Quite the salesman today.
But not shot at. So I wasn't getting shot at. That was a good thing. But there were people getting shot at there.
Okay.
Now, in the South for St. Patrick, I was in Dublin for one St. Patrick's Day. And I remember going to Patrick Murphy's house on the north side of Dublin.
Sounds legit.
Patrick Murphy. So, Paddy Murphy. Is that an Irish name? Yeah. Went to his house, and there, you know how you put on something green you're supposed to have, and you're supposed to have a shamrock or something. And so he grabbed a clump of dirt out of the garden and pinned it onto my suit. Like that's what you like sod.
Oh, that was nice.
Okay, it's green. So you got nothing green on. You need a wee bit of green. So here you go.
He's just helping you out, man.
Thank you. And so we went to the parade. The parade, I'm having high expectations. I'm on O'Connell Street, right there, the River Liffey, the smelly River Liffey. Which it didn't really
wasn't
smell.
there like the Irish Spring soap? Remember, wasn't that like big and like that?
Yes, and Lucky
Lucky
Charms.
You're bringing me back.
So anyway, I'm on O'Connell Street there to watch the parade, and I'm thinking it's going to be great St. Patrick's Day parade in Dublin, Ireland. It's 1975.
There
and
are cloggers everywhere, right?
Yeah. Here's what it was. It was a bunch of American bands that went over there, their high schools, to parade, and they had pathetic floats where. Let me put it this way. The floats, and I'm putting that in air quotes, the floats were advertisements with a couple of flowers and something green with them. Like, okay, you see the Rose Parade, which I was used to being from Southern California. We went to many Rose Parades. And it would be a ton of flowers, a ton of people on the float, and then you'd see Bank of America in the lower left, real small. And you'd see it was the
Bank
opposite.
of America.
Yeah, whatever bank. Yeah.
This was in the early 50s.
No, this was when I was a kid in L.A. That's what you would see. They're still around. B of A is still around.
No, I'm just
So they're still around. And but it was the opposite there. The advertisement would be Joe's Peat Moss. Would be the large advertisement that would be there, and it'd just be a pathetic looking float that would be a lorry with a trailer behind it and carrying the big Peat Moss sign. But it was sort of cool seeing the American bands. For me as an American, I hadn't seen American bands and high school bands in this, so that was a little bit of fun. But still, I expected it to be a little
drunk?
more ethnic. No, I did not. No, it did not.
It was St. Patrick's Day for you.
It was one of my favorite St. Patrick's Days. How's that? So it was that. It was enjoyable. And so where are you headed? Are you going?
I think I'm going to go to Blondie's.
Blondie's?
Yeah, in Planet Hollywood. Have you ever been over there?
I have been there. I like Blondie's.
Yeah. They're great crew. It's fun atmosphere. Local owners, Vaughn, and Brittany, they're awesome. And then I'm going to be there for March Madness next week, too.
We did. Oh, okay.
So, yeah, if you want to come by and buy me a drink, Ron, you can.
Okay. Oh, that's right. March Madness is coming up. Oh, that madness thing.
Oh, that madness is happening.
The NCAA
But
tournament.
only come if you're going to buy me a drink.
Yeah,
just
only
to be
come
clear.
there,
And as soon as the drink is finished, don't feel obligated to stay.
Final score: Golden Knights 2-1 over the Stars. So their streak continues.
Look at you.
They continue to play well.
That is some updating reporting right
there.
there.
Okay, here's one of my favorite Ireland stories. We would get out into the. I was everywhere. I was in the north of Ireland, in Belfast for a while, in Dublin, in Cork, as they say, Kirk, Limerick, Galway. But you'd go out in the country and you ask an Irishman for directions. Okay, and so so you go. Okay, I'm trying to find. I'd say this house or this place or this location, and it would be he'd back up and so. What you want to be doing now is you want to go a wee ways down the road, you see, and you'll see a large stone on your right. Well, you don't turn there. You go a wee bit further, and you look on your left. You see a
stone.
You see a thatched roof cottage there, and the road is there. But you don't turn there. You go a wee bit further, and you'll see another thatched roof cottage on your left. Well, you don't turn there. And so I'm going like, at what point are you going to tell me where to turn, okay? Because I've heard...
Actually, just go that way.
I've heard you tell me 6 times where not to... They would tell you everywhere not to turn.
Wouldn't that be like the best MapQuest like voiceover? You know? Yes. The Tropicana's coming up, but don't turn there.
But you don't turn there. You go a wee bit farther there.
I would pay extra money to download that onto like someone I didn't like's phone, and like there's just no way they could take it off.
And then you'll see the old man sitting there. That's Paddy O'Reilly. He's digging the peat moss out of the wee ditch, and you don't turn there. But you may want to say hi to him for a little while. He's a nice old chap, so so that's the Irishmen love the way they give directions, but they'll never tell you where to go. They'll tell you everywhere not to go.
Not to go.
And so it's just for fun.
How'd the women give directions?
I don't know. They weren't allowed to. This was in the 70s.
Oh, clearly.
Okay, this was the 70s.
This is such a fake story because we know you never asked for directions. You're a man. You're like, no, it's right up here.
I heard somebody ask for directions once, and that's where I got it from.
That's
it wasn't me,
right?
Yeah, I heard somebody, but it was a fun place to be. I remember this. Okay, here I'm going to give another an Ireland story.
Okay.
I was in Cork, which is where the Blarney Stone is in Cork. You kiss the Blarney Stone, the castle, and that sort of stuff.
And then you get what is chlamydia or
yeah, you get disease because everybody else from everywhere around the world has kissed that ugly thing. So
you wake up with a little extra. Okay, tell me this.
What is this little bruise on my nose? Oh, it's getting bigger. Anyway, so I went to this place called. You have to take a train to it. It's directly of Cork. It's directly west from there, but still on the coast. A place called Cobh, Cobh. And I think it's another place called Whitehall Beach, something like that. Anyway, right there in a little cove, you take the castle there, and it was where they brought the bodies and the survivors from the Lusitania when it was sunk prior to World War I. This is 1912, 1913. And I met some old lady there who was as a 10-year-old child was there, because this was, again, in the 70s, so all the math works out.
Yeah.
I met this old lady and talked to her about what it was like, and she told me about the stories of them bringing the bodies up and lining them up on the beach from the Lusitania when it was sunk, and she's relating this firsthand knowledge and experience she had. It was just fascinating. And then she showed us there was a gravesite where a number of Americans were buried there because back then they didn't bother bringing the bodies back. It was expensive and difficult, and so they left some Americans' bodies there and buried them outside Cobh. Cobh. So we went up there, spent a day cleaning out it was all overrun with weeds and grass, and so we just spent a day cleaning out the cemetery there that they had for some of the Americans that had died in this. And years now later, and probably 10 years ago, I'm watching a History Channel special on the Lusitania. Now I'm peaked up. My interest is peaked because of my personal experience there. And sure enough, they showed pictures of the bodies, not the lady, but the bodies lined up there on the shore like she had described it to me. And it was like, oh, okay. There's a bit of a flashback. So there's that
was an uplifting story for sure.
Death and destruction and misery, and helped lead to a German U-boat taken out of. But it was, I think we've pretty much come to the conclusion that boat with passengers was loaded with weapons and exploded in the water. And the Germans, I hate to say, might have been right on that what we were using human shields to carry weapons back and forth. Yes, and using it on passenger boats on large, because it blew up and it sunk right away. And I don't know what the death total was, but it helped bring us into World War One, and which anyway, led to World War II, which
we're good at them. I know.
And 100 million people dead later, and there we go. Okay. So with that, I don't know what I love St. Patrick's Day. It's sort of fun here.
Does your wife?
Was my wife cook? No, I don't like
beef and
I don't
cabbage,
like that.
No?
The Irish food tastes horrible.
You don't like a good baked potato?
A baked potato, yes.
Yeah, that's legit.
I can do a baked potato.
You can't go wrong with a baked potato.
But corned beef and cabbage is awful.
Yeah.
And
what about green Jello?
I'll go green Jello.
Yeah,
go there.
Green Jello shots or something.
That's a staple. There's some green Jello.
Irish whiskey.
Yes. So the Irish make whiskey.
I've heard that.
Oh, I've heard. Oh, is that right? But it was it was a great experience to I'll say this, to live there was different than like traveling there and being there and spending a week there and going, and a lot of people have traveled there, but living there was different. I remember going into the homes, and you'd go into the homes of a lot of the Irish back then. What's that?
Were you taller?
That's the problem. I'm 6'3", and so that I had to duck.
Yeah.
And you'd go in the homes, and they would have, almost every one of them would have this picture frame, vertical picture frame, long, horizontal picture frame, long, and it would have 3 photos in it in circles. And in the center would be a picture of Jesus.
Right.
And on the left would be a picture of whoever the current pope was.
Nice.
And on the right would be a picture of John F. Kennedy.
Really?
And that was the Holy Trinity.
Wow.
Like that was the Trinity there of JFK.
Some people, like China, man, made millions off of these Irish.
Yes,
getting them off the line,
but
right?
They would put them up there, and it was great to see them, because it was, as an American, sometimes I would get people so did you know John F. Kennedy?
Did you just go with it?
Had you ever met him? You ever? No, I didn't. I never met him. No, I was 7 years old when he died, so no, I didn't ever meet him and know him. But since you're American, they think
assume
we might have
everybody.
known him and met him, but no, I didn't quite know him. And so no, I had that question from a lady too. I'm on a bus in Galway, so it's the summer of '77 when Elvis died, and a lady came onto a city bus in Galway and says,
Was Elvis like a singer or
She was in tears. He was what's his last name? Somebody in town call us here. If you can remind it. Presley, I think was his last name. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, she says, yeah, did you hear the news today? Elvis Presley died. And so she was almost like I said in tears. Did you know him?
Oh.
I wanted to say yes. I did.
You know what? Like I remember. What year was that? What the Elvis died?
77.
77.
I only know it because I was in. It was the summer of '77. I was in Galway.
I see, and I remember like my uncle was talking about Elvis and how he died, and I was only like 5 or 6, and I believed that Elvis was my uncle's best friend as a 5-year-old.
Oh,
because he was so emotionally attached to him that like he was like, "This is Elvis's song," and I was like, "He must know this guy.
He must know him. He must. Yes.
Why is he so excited about this?"
He's given personal experiences.
Yeah. So
okay. Now we're going into Elvis land. Tyler, he lives up in Reno now. He was 10 years old at the time, and it's Elvis's birthday, which is January 9th, I think. But anyway, it's Elvis' birthday, so they're doing Elvis-thon marathons on some of the channels on TV, on some of the cable channels. Watching it, and some Elvis impersonators come up.
Right.
And Tyler innocently asked me, he said, if so many people could sing like Elvis, why was he such a big deal?
Yeah, exactly.
I said, good point. I said, they could, because everybody, I'm about to treat me like a fool. Everybody thinks they can sound like Elvis, right? And so, and some are pretty good. Some are even better than me at that. I don't know where I'd rank. Probably, what do you think?
I mean, I'm tone deaf, and I still think you're bad. So.
Okay, so he brought up a great point, and I said, but the difference was Elvis was Elvis. Okay, well, Elvis was, he was the original. He was the first. He was it, and he was Elvis.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but...
Oh, no. You go ahead.
I mean, it's society's standards. Wouldn't you find it a little bit odd that he like married a 15-year-old girl, or how old she was? I mean, like
Priscilla?
With everything that's coming into like the news now, with the Jacksons, the R. Kelly, like all of this, like. Aren't there like a couple signs that maybe Elvis like had some of those behaviors?
It was a different time. It was a different time.
I'm just saying. Yes. I'm not one to gossip, but
how old was Elvis when they got married?
I think he was like probably
20. He'd been to the war. He'd been to Germany.
Yeah. I don't know.
Come back, but he knew her before he left.
Right,
by the way,
as a 14-year-old girl. Like, hello.
And he wanted to marry her.
If he was alive today, he'd be on Gayle King right now.
He'd be with R. Kelly. Did you see the R. Kelly?
I did.
Yeah, give me your thoughts.
He's a horrible human being. Lock him up, lose the keys. Like, how many women have to come forward to be like, yeah, it's that guy? How much video? Yeah, that's the guy. Like,
you see on the video.
Okay, like, yeah, come on now. No, I mean, it's sad to what's gone on with those girls, what's gone on with those families. That guy is a horrible human being. Like, why are you still sitting, in a hotel after what he's done to women? And
instead of behind bars.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. And yeah, his music. He has a catchy thing. Like, I saw the SNL. Did you see the SNL spoof of it? Like,
it was too easy.
Yeah.
That was too easy.
They literally listed and said, like, oh, I gave you age ain't nothing but a number. All the clues.
Yes.
Like, he literally put it right in our face. It was like, catch me if you can.
How hard was that investigation? You got the video. You got all my songs.
Yeah.
You got,
But I did pay off the witness, so it's all good, right?
It's all good. Yeah. As long as you bribe people.
And I think the same thing about Michael Jackson. I mean, I was young when all of that broke the first time, and I've never purchased a Michael Jackson song because I just feel like it's just not a moral thing for me to do. But most people would disagree. You probably own a bunch of his music.
Me, Thriller, Bad, I got them all. I can't get. I put them right next to my Zeppelin stuff.
Obviously, right?
Right next to the Zeppelin, the Who, and Pink Floyd. It goes right to Michael Jackson from there. Okay, what happens now? We're stream of consciousness here, which is frightening, which is fun though. But
let's do that. Let's see what
Jesse
happens.
Smollett, what do you think?
Who?
Jesse.
That was like the worst. Okay, when Brian was talking about that. Why are you getting Subway in the middle of the night? Like, I have never been drunk and been like, you know what I could go for right now is 3 people to make me a sandwich. Is there a Subway around here? Like, that just set the red flag right up. And
Subway's the worst, by the way, of all the sandwich shops to go to.
Yeah, you you go get something fried. You're like, let's find a Taco Bell or a Jack in the Box. Like, I'm off my diet, Subway, rookie mistake right there.
Right there. Okay, so that was a tell.
Yeah, that was a tell for sure. And then just like, I'm the victim in all of this. And, the way the media took it was to the next level. Like, I think that's what also spawned things. Because like you and me, we would see something like that and we'd be like, that's really sad. But the way that the media reacted to it and the politicians were like, no, this is a hate crime. This is this is that. It turned into a hate crime because you said it was a hate crime. Like, that's what pushes that envelope towards that is the media and the politicians are like, no, this is a hate crime. No, it was just a dude, like a bad actor trying to get attention.
I haven't seen his show, but I'm going to take your word for it that he is a bad. Just by the fact that he couldn't
get this job. This is the acting performance of your life. Like, come on, get a better producer to produce the thing for you. I mean,
where's your script? Get a teleprompter at least.
No, all of it, like you said, spelled bad. Like, none of it made any sense. Like, why in Chicago? Like, it's freezing cold, and there that week, like, wasn't the whole city under like 15 feet of snow? And you're like, I'm getting beat up. No one's picking a fight with somebody.
It was too. I'll say this: it was too perfect.
Mm-hmm. But not really.
It sounded. No, it wasn't. Ultimately, it wasn't perfect, but it fit. It hit all the buttons. Like if you were going to script it for a movie,
really
it hit all those buttons.
The entire country. Like, he could have, I believe Americans are smart, and there's enough of us out there can look at that and be like, yeah, that was sad, and move on from it and not turn it into what like a few of the people on the press and the politicians turned it into a hate thing. I think the rest of America is like, no, that is sad when something like that's happened. That's what I believe America still has going for it, is like there's still enough of us that are like, nah, it doesn't add up.
It doesn't. Well, Robin Roberts couldn't figure it out, though.
Yeah, I mean,
she didn't want to figure it out.
She's on the morning news. She's not on the night news for a reason.
Robin, she did not want to.
Who was her competitor, Kathy Lee, and she's drunk?
Allegedly. Everything, by the way, Susie, everything she says is alleged, let's say here.
Obviously. And these are all my opinions. These are not facts.
What Susie says is not the opinion of Kate on Radio or any of its sponsors. Or Brian Shapiro. It's certainly not the opinion of Brian Shapiro.
Yeah, clearly no.
Certainly not the opinion of the Vegas Take of Brian Shapiro.
It's going to be fun in 3 weeks. We're like, remember when we used to do that thing at the radio?
When they fire us?
Yeah. Can they fire us from a job that we didn't have?
That we don't get paid for? Yeah, guess what? Lost another job. Do we want to take a call before we?
Yeah, let's take one more.
We have
2 minutes.
I don't have any callers, but I'm going to say final call. Final thought. 702-257-5396.
You know how many family members I have, and they don't even call in. This is the opportunity.
In Logandale too, right?
Logandale, they love it out there.
And I don't know. I've been there quite a few times. I love
the fair is out there.
The fair is fun. I took the kids when they were younger out there.
I think a lot of my cousins, like one of them might be like the fair princess or whatever, like with the ride around with the flag and the horse or something. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So St. Patrick's Day this weekend. We're gonna be safe. Be
at
careful.
Blondie's. Come to Blondie's. You can meet me and Ron.
Okay.
Next week. I'll be there next week.
You'll be there next week for March Madness. It'll be interesting to see what happens if Marvin Menzies looking for a new coach at UNLV. You're in favor of Kevin Kruger.
I mean, I think the timeline should be that she should hire somebody within like the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks. No, I would agree. Let's get this done. Don't screw this around.
Don't be flying people out here on private planes, leaving their wives in like crazy spots, and then be like, we don't know what keeps happening to my broker?
Why didn't he take the job? Well, because you left Patino's wife at the airport when
and that woman's been through enough.
Yeah, she has to be married to Rick.
Exactly.
And I hear the basketball wife coach is tough.
They're like the nicest. Yeah, I've heard that. There's a lot of shows on them that are really like make them look great.
Yes. But we got that going on. We got St. Patrick's Day this weekend. Have a good St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Yes. Thanks for listening, all of you. 3 people, 4 people.
No, come on. Hundreds of thousands of people over the western states. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.